Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. As you can see today, we are going over the biggest U.S. men's national team transfers that will happen, have happened, may happen, should happen, all the things you need to have covered, and more importantly, how those transfers will impact those teams and how those players will be playing and how it relates to how they played for the U.S. men's national team. So that's a little confusing, but as you can see, a bunch of different players are going to have some tactic boards up on how those teams, how those coaches are going to line up with those players, breaking it down. This is just a look at some of the graphics we have prepared. There's nothing bigger, though, than the future of Gio Reyna and what that will mean for him and his likelihood at being in the U.S. men's national team World Cup squad in 2026. I spoke about this in my last video. If you have not heard what I had to say about whether or not Gio Reyna is in or out, go watch that video first. If not, and you have, let's roll with Gio Reyna. So Parma, that's where he's linked. 8 million euros has been offered from Parma to Dortmund. Dortmund are holding out for 10. It looks like it's going to happen. Reyna's being held out of preseason. There's no way Dortmund are going to hold out over 2 million. Maybe there'll be a sell-on clause or something to get this done. The interesting thing is, Parma has a new manager, Carlos Cuesta. He was the assistant under Mikel Arteta for 4 years. Very talented young coach. A lot of people are excited about. But we've only seen him really take charge of one match so far. His first match he took charge of was against the Parma under-21. So I'm not going to count that. But in his first friendly against Werder Bremen, it was interesting. And I'm going to break it down a little bit on how it's going to probably work out for Gio Reyna. So as you can see here, they set up in a 3-4-2-1 system with these kind of two attacking midfielders and this flat-ish 4 midfield. These two are really wingbacks here who get high and wide. Now, there's two positions where Gio Reyna could fit in this system, right? He could either fit in out here or over here where Andreca is. After watching and looking at this match and reading this thread by @LUFC Zane, so if you want to follow Parma this year, he's a great tactical account covering them. I spoke to him a little bit. It seems like there's two options that I already spoke of. Man, this Romanian, I think Man is his last name, he liked to get high and wide here right-hand side. Andreca was kind of more of a second striker who was operating in the left-hand half spaces. And that's where Gio Reyna, we know, really likes to be. That's where Gio Reyna is at his best. In the half spaces, receiving in between the lines, and playing the ball forward into his runners. It seemed to be that was the position of Andreca. It seems to be that's what this player is being asked to do in Carlos Cuesta's new system. It's a half-space creator. And Bernabe, who's one of Parma's most talented players, who's definitely going to be a key to their success this year. Although he looks to be in the base of this midfield, he seems to be slotting kind of into this right-hand half space. So similarly to the way Pochettino plays, right? This second striker kind of sits below the real striker, kind of gets high and wide on the right. Think about when Downs comes in. And then this extra midfielder kind of pops into this flat 4. So it seems that that's what's going to happen with the left-hand side playing a little bit more advanced than the right-hand side, due to the fact that there's an extra attacker here on the right-hand side, meaning that Gio Reyna, again, more likely to be in this position. That's the best-case scenario for Gio Reyna and how he's going to fit, number one, into the way that Carlos Cuesta and Parma want to play, and number two, into the way that he'd want to play at the U.S. men's national team level, right? Like, in a world where Gio Reyna gets into this side, I actually think the most likely scenario would be Tillman going out to the right-hand side and coming in at the right-hand half space, Pulisic but being your widest left player, and Gio Reyna coming in that left-hand half space. This is going to be where he's operating for Parma and Carlos Cuesta. The key for Gio Reyna is not being put in a position where he can hide and go out to the wide areas. I spoke about that a lot last year when he was at Dortmund, and the few opportunities he got, he seemed to shed responsibility by drifting himself super wide, receiving there, and then not being able to really make much happen from those wide areas. In this system, that's not going to be an option. You have two fullbacks holding the width here super wide. As you can see, he wrote about this whole thing. You should read this thread @LUFC Zane. You should read this thread about it. But basically, the wide backs being used super high and wide with a second striker hanging out underneath this number 9. Gio Reyna needs to make this move. There's really not much else to it. The other thing that's great about a move to Parma is Carlos Cuesta. Not only is Carlos Cuesta trying to make this happen, trying to get this deal done to get Gio Reyna, a player he has asked for, but go watch the clip of Carlos Cuesta talking to Ben White in the tactical room, in the video room at Arsenal during the Amazon All or Nothing season. He sits down with Ben White and says, you don't believe in yourself enough. I believe in you more than you believe in you. I'm going to show you why you can be so successful at this position. As Ben White was making a change kind of from that right center back to right back position. So that sounds like a very good situation for Gio Reyna to find himself in, where he's going to be with a coach who wants to work with him personally, who believes in him and sees his future better than he does. Let's see this Gio Reyna move happen, and we hope that Dortmund doesn't get in his way again, because this would not be the first time that we don't get the most out of Gio Reyna, because Dortmund are not willing to let him go over a few pennies. A transfer move that has happened is Malik Tillman moving to Bayer Leverkusen and being given the number 10 shirt under Erik ten Hag's new reign. Now, Erik ten Hag is not one of my favorite managers, but we must remember how good he was at Ajax before he failed at Manchester United, and the shitstorm, for lack of a better term, that was Manchester United when Ten Hag came in, what transpired while he was there, and what's happened since he left. Yes, Ten Hag did not do a lot of things correctly there, but at the same time, Manchester United are plenty to blame. Now, this position that Malik Tillman's going to be playing in Ten Hag's system is going to be perfect for him. Ten Hag likes to play with double tens. Does that sound familiar to you, double tens? Yes, because we've seen Pochettino play that all summer at the Gold Cup, and we've seen Malik Tillman thrive in that situation. Think about Dusan Tadic. What happened to Dusan Tadic when he came to Ajax under Ten Hag? He thrived, scoring double-digit goals and assists every year, being one of the best goal creators and goal scorers in Europe while at Ajax, because he was given so much freedom and ability to get into the best possible ways. So let's just quickly kind of go through some of the images that you're going to see here, right? So when Ajax are in possession, you can kind of see this flat four that's created up in front of the opposition box. That's going to allow for basically your one winger to hold high and wide, which will keep this fullback pushing this way. Your double tens now are finding themselves kind of in 1v1s identically, while the creation is being happening in front of you. Then in more of a kind of transitional format, as this ball comes in, right, you've got one of your double tens. This is actually Donny van de Beek, kind of actually making a run in behind. Your other double 10 is actually right here. I believe that's Hakim Ziyech. So you're able to keep the width with your 10s, and you also have an overlapping player here. So that was Tagliafico for all of those years. Then let's look about how it looks when you can see everybody in the system, right? So in this situation, you've got Van de Beek, Ziyech, and Tadic. All three of them are kind of comfortable playing as 10s. Tadic was mostly the striker, for lack of a better term, but a player who obviously is willing to drop in and create as well. But in this situation, you have 5 players basically against their 4 defenders plus a defensive midfielder. So when Tadic makes this run a little bit deeper in, Ziyech can drop in here. Van de Beek can pull this defender wherever he wants. It's a very interesting shape because it leaves you super vulnerable in a lot of ways to transition, which I think is what happened to Manchester United so many times due to a general lack of athleticism, both in their midfield and in their center backs. But in possession, it can be so deadly. Here's another look at the system, right? Ten Hag is all about triangles. He wants to give the player in possession as many options for passes as you can make. So when this pass comes in to, let's say, Malik Tillman in this double 10 situation, right? You have Tagliafico holding it as high and wide. Antony here. Tadic through the middle. This is an Ajax formation, of course. Then you have basically what would be Tillman and the other 10 in support here and behind. When this ball comes in here, if this player crashes, this play is going to be open. If this player crashes, you're going to be able to come out wide or pop it back into your 6. This player is going to follow this way a little bit to create this triangle. It's all about the third man opportunity, right? If everything is a triangle, then you're going to have an extra player to play it into. This will allow Malik Tillman to not only play as a bit of a second striker, hanging out below the 10 and popping up for those spectacular goals that he can score, but it's also going to allow Malik Tillman to be the creator and the runner, right? Let's get back to this photo up here. Imagine this is Malik Tillman receiving this here. He's now going to be able to drive at these defenders while having 2 or 3 options out in front of him. He can drift wide where we know he can be super successful. He can do everything and have the freedom to be the player that he has shown that he has been so successfully. I thought this blurb was actually really well written, and so I'm gonna read it directly. But Ten Hag typically uses more than one number 10, regardless of his formation, to suit the style. The role is to exploit the half spaces created by the wide players. Just to stop there for a second, think about Tillman for the U.S. men's national team and how important it was for him when McGlynn was in or when Freeman got high and wide in terms of the amount of space that was created for him in the half spaces. That's exactly what is going to be happening here for Leverkusen. There will always be a number 10 in the midfield three and often another one playing off one of the wings, right? That's kind of what we saw as well, right? You had more like Luna playing off of the striker while Tillman was kind of getting involved in the midfield three and build-up, or you had Tillman and the right winger playing off of the striker, high and wide on the right with the ball coming in over the top, Tillman winning second balls, while you had either the left back or the right back dropping into that midfield three. Number 10s in the setup need to have very high football IQ to be able to identify the space and exploit it. We talked all summer about Tillman identifying space and exploiting it. They have to be extremely good technically to move the ball in tight areas and complement the focus on ball retention. I mean, this is literally a picture-perfect idea that is presented for Malik Tillman in this system, who will be more successful than I think any of these four players were at Ajax, and they were all very, very successful. The only other image I did want to show here was from Erik ten Hag's time at, here it is, this image, at Manchester United, where when they're able to break this press, right, you get these two center backs, you get your fullbacks kind of equidistant to this pivot. Bruno Fernandes, that's kind of the best example I can give you of Manchester United and what the position Malik Tillman will play. When this ball can get into here and you can create a mini transition and you have these wingers who have to stay wide, that's how Ten Hag wants them. The wingers wide and the striker through the middle. The striker is going to drag these two players and allow this player to turn and run. Malik Tillman is a well more powerful runner than Bruno Fernandes was. And so I'm excited to see him kind of succeed in that role. Not only that, but in the way that Ten Hag wants to defend, and that's you can kind of see it here in the off-ball shape, it's very similar, right? This striker is going to press here, and then this will be the trigger man. So if this ball comes out wide, he's going to step into this passing lane, and when that ball swings back here, he's going to be the highest presser there. For Malik Tillman, this is a picture-perfect move to be moving to Leverkusen, to be playing Champions League football under Ten Hag, who really identifies with number 10s. Everything should work out well for Tillman here, assuming Ten Hag can, control his ego and the way that he is a manager. Another spectacular move that we have seen now this summer is Johnny Cardoso given the number 5 shirt at Atletico Madrid. I mean, I feel like a lot of people are yet to be huge believers in Johnny Cardoso, and I can understand that if you've only watched him for the U.S. men's national team, but he has been outstanding for Betis in La Liga, and Atletico Madrid and Diego Simeone's 4-4-2 is the perfect thing for Johnny Cardoso. As EBL, who, if you don't follow EBL and you love tactics, really good writer, but as EBL points out here, Simeone has gone back to his 4-4-2. I think for a while he looked at a bunch of different formations due to the profiles that were in front of him, but at his best, 4-4-2 was always how Simeone played. It was 4 strong defenders, usually one of those fullbacks being a super strong left back who can overlap. 4 central midfield profiles, right? Like think of the days of when he had Gabi, Saul, Partey, Rodri, those 4 players all playing in that midfield 4. Or when Rodri and Partey were midfield pivot together. Think those days where all 4 midfield profiles could really only play midfield, but were also playing as right mids and left mids just because of how strong they were and all of the kind of rotational options that were given to them. It's what made Thomas Partey such a good player and Rodri such good players in so many different aspects of the game. So in possession, you're going to imagine that Johnny is going to be, and I think this video sums it up pretty well as well, if we go back to the beginning of this video, right? As they pull up in possession, you have a defensive midfielder here and a defensive midfielder here. Johnny could suit either of these, and I'm going to get to that because Rodrigo de Paul just left. So it's interesting to see where Cardoso is going to be played. This defensive midfielder now drops a little bit further in, starts to bring up to try and engage the midfield, can play it further back out wide, the number 10, or which is usually Griezmann, or whoever it might be in this situation, while Julian Alvarez is the highest up the pitch, drops back in. And then I just want to pause it here. This number 10 now has options, but it also has the option of laying this back into Cardoso, who can then ping it this way, or Cardoso who can then reset it or play it in between the lines to the number 7 here. A lot of different options. As you can see it a little bit flatter here, right? Cardoso is going to probably be one of these two players when they're in possession and moving forward. This is where he wants to operate. And I think for the U.S. men's national team, he hasn't been able to be put in those positions where he can be most successful. Now, Rodrigo de Paul is leaving Atletico Madrid this year. This is what his heat map looked like from last year. He played mostly as the right central midfielder in this 4-4-2. As you can see, though, he did like to get a little bit more forward than you'll likely see from Johnny Cardoso, right? If you look at Johnny Cardoso's heat map, he's a little bit deeper. He's not totally afraid of getting higher. He does it a little bit more off the left-hand side. That's just how he was asked at Betis, but he is equally comfortable on either side. He doesn't have much bias in the way that he passes or dribbles. But as you can see, he plays a little bit deeper. Now, there is also Pablo Barrios, who is staying there and will continue to be a huge part of the midfield for Atletico Madrid, and this is his heat map from last year. So as you can see, his heat map is awfully similar now to Johnny Cardoso's. This is Cardoso up here on the top. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. This is Barrios down here. However, Barrios kind of potentially matches up a little bit better to Rodrigo de Paul. So in my opinion, what I believe is going to happen is you're going to see Cardoso slot into Barrios' role as kind of the left center midfielder in that 4-4-2, and then Barrios is going to step into De Paul's position. As you can see, Barrios does get forward a little bit better on the right-hand side, Cardoso here on the left-hand side. So Cardoso is this top heat map, and Barrios is this bottom heat map. But either way, Johnny Cardoso is going to Atletico Madrid to be one of the main players. He was given the number 5 shirt. He's replacing Rodrigo de Paul. I believe he's going to be a key man for them this year, and it's a very exciting time for both Tillman and Cardoso to be making these moves. Now, we've got a couple other moves to quickly go through that have already happened. Patrick Adjumang moving to Derby County to lead the line. I don't know that this is going to go so well. This is a big risk for Adjumang. Yes, if he's spectacular for Derby, I think he keeps himself in the conversation as the third striker, but it's a risky move. If he struggles for Derby County, and Josh Sargent, for example, and we'll get to Josh Sargent later in the video, Josh Sargent is spectacular, that's going to hurt Adjumang. This seems like a move where he's taking a big gamble on himself, and Charlotte FC, they brought some young kid up to the striker role, and I think he's already scored 2 goals in replacement of Patrick Adjumang, which does not bode well for Adjumang. Damian Downs has made the move to Southampton, already scored a fantastic goal in his preseason debut. Damian Downs is going to light the championship up, if you ask me. I think he is going to be spectacular for Southampton. That's a perfect club for him, a perfect move. And I think when we get to the October camp, Damian Downs will be the third striker called up alongside Pepi and Balogun. That's my opinion. I'm excited to watch him for Southampton. A really, really strong move for him to a club that is known for developing young players, who has a ton of young players there who are going to play a free-flowing style of football, the exact style of football that Downs is great in. Already saw some highlights from that preseason game where Downs is making good runs into the channel. Excellent ball control, excellent finisher. Great move for him. Now let's talk about Christian Pulisic. Christian Pulisic's an interesting one because he didn't move clubs. There was thought that he might move clubs, but he did get a new manager in Massimiliano Allegri, who obviously we know was very successful at Juventus earlier in the 2000s. Wasn't great in his latest stint there. Has been known to play a little bit of a boring style of football. But there are a couple different ways that we might see him line up. Now, this was the first match and how they matched up against Arsenal at AC Milan. And it was interesting because obviously Pulisic was not in the starting 11 for this side. But the way that they lined up, it appears that Rafael Leao is going to be playing as potentially one of the furthest forward players, like not out on the wing as much as he's going to be in a kind of a 2-striker system. So this formation in possession changes from kind of this 5-3-2 to more of a 3-2-5. Now imagine Okafor is Pulisic. That's where I imagine a lot of his responsibility will come in possession, in this left-hand half space where we've seen Pulisic thrive, obviously, for the U.S. men's national team. Last year, he played more on this right-hand side. I think he could play there very well, as much depending on the tactics that Allegri chooses. But if he were to go for this 5-4-1, and I think there was a really well illustrated, right here. So in possession, they're kind of in this 3-2-5, which we're all very familiar with, obviously. This would be Pulisic's position here. Here or here is where you're most likely to see Pulisic. I don't love Pulisic in this most advanced central role. I think he's a little bit better receiving between the lines and finding space. Keep in mind, this was against Arsenal, who are one of the best structured defensive teams in the world. And this was the first preseason match of the year, but they did struggle to create. Now, I am worried about, let me just skip forward to where is that? Defensively. So in this defensive shape, here's Leao and Loftus-Cheek. This is where Pulisic would be. You're asking Pulisic to do a lot of defensive work. He's basically in this 3 midfield base who, since you have 5 defenders who are along this flat line, these 3 are going to run a lot, especially these 2 outside guys. This player is responsible for covering when this ball from Lewis Skelly is going to come out wide. This player is going to be responsible for getting out here and then getting in this passing lane to prevent this next pass into Declan Rice. So imagine the same thing out wide right here, right? If this ball from Lewis Skelly were to come all the way out wide, I believe that's Saliba or Ben White. I can't tell. It's super blurry. But this player, Leao, is going to be asked to press here, and this player is going to be asked to stop this ball from getting out wide while also preventing this ball from coming inside. So it's going to be a lot of defensive work for Christian Pulisic. Now, in what I think is more likely the way that Allegri is going to line up in this more of a 4-4-2, Pulisic would start as a left winger, but when it starts in a 5-3-2, but in possession moves to a 4-4-2, then Pulisic is all the way out here on the left wing, and he did quite well against Liverpool, super wide here. But I'm also like, is Loftus-Cheek really going to play in this right-hand half space when Pulisic was so successful there last year? I would hope not. I'd much rather see Pulisic kind of drop into this right-hand half space, second striker role, where him and Leao can play off of each other. Clearly, they're 2 most dangerous players. But what's kind of the most surprising, I guess, to see so far out of all of these tactics that I've seen from Allegri is, are they going to play completely without a striker? And in that situation, is Leao the striker? I mean, they brought in Santi Jimenez last year. They had Morata. They've had Giroud. They've been a target man type of system for a long time. They've also just brought in Estupiñán, and they have Salesmakers. So they have 2 wingbacks who he's going to want to play high and wide with, Salesmakers and Estupiñán, meaning Christian Pulisic is not going to be the widest player on the left. I do worry that he's going to be asked, again, for a lot of defensive responsibility in this system under Allegri. But Pulisic has said he's excited for the season. He thinks he can get the most goals and assists he's had in any year leading up to the World Cup. Seems to be in the right mindset. I just worry that a man who's played a lot of minutes, who's already on tired legs, is going to get exhausted from the rigorous work that is asked out of this system from Massimiliano Allegri. Now we've got to talk, of course, about Folarin Balogun, who is in a really weird spot now going into the next World Cup. He is likely not the number 1 striker for the U.S. men's national team. He is definitely not the number 1 striker for Monaco. He is maybe not the number 2 striker for Monaco. You've got Mika Biereth there, who came in and was on fire second half of the last year. And from preseason, it's been pretty clear that he is the number 1 striker. Now, Monaco do like to play with 2 strikers, but you've got Brielle Mbolo there and Golovin, who isn't really a striker, but has been playing as that kind of second striker role off the left-hand side, with Biereth playing as kind of that right-handed striker. Now, I think Balogun's best off making a move this summer, but the options that have been presented to Folarin Balogun are not very exciting, in my opinion. Newcastle is an option, and yes, Isak may leave. But if Isak leaves, there's no way Newcastle aren't bringing in a bigger name than Balogun. And so then you're asking for Balogun to come in and take the Callum Wilson role. Now, the Callum Wilson role is not a bad role because Isak, or whoever that striker is, can't play every minute. Isak seemingly misses 20 matches a season, so there's plenty of opportunity for Balogun. But I'd rather him be a number 1 striker. Now, I don't think that is what's going to be presented to him at Newcastle. Some other options that have been presented. Ren was interested early in the window, but that has seemed to have died down. Feyenoord has been rumored as of recently, but I'm not obsessed with Balogun going to Turkey and what that will do for his game. I don't think that's the best place for him to continue his career. He's still so young. I'd like him to stay in Europe's top 5 leagues, or at the very least the Eredivisie, somewhere where we've seen players be successful. Ligue 1 has been a good league for Balogun. He was very unlucky to have gotten those 2 injuries last year. Monaco probably don't go and sign Mika Biarritz if not for those injuries. So a bit of an unlucky trajectory, but an article came out today that Balogun is definitely available to be purchased, as well as Briel Mbolo. So it would appear that Monaco will sell one of their 2. I do hope it's Balogun and to another Ligue 1 club that could use a striker, or I don't hate the Newcastle move, but it feels like one that could just completely kill all momentum Balogun has had. We'll see what happens from there. And then you got Weston McKennie. It's the normal cycle of Weston McKennie. We've seen it time and time again. It's, Weston McKennie is out of shape. Weston McKennie is not in the game plan. Weston McKennie may be up for transfer. And then all of a sudden, Weston McKennie plays, 3,000 minutes. He's one of the most important players for Juventus on the season. And we're back to what we've seen over and over again, where Juventus are not the same without Weston McKennie that they are with. I mean, it's just he can play in every position for them. He's been so successful for them. I really do expect him to stay there and continue to play for Juventus this year. We will update you if something else comes in from that. Now we've got a super exciting one, in my opinion, which is Ricardo Pepi. And to me, the most exciting part of the Ricardo Pepi situation that we have ahead of us, Ricardo Pepi was given the number 9 shirt. Ricardo Pepi has a manager who has said, we are going to change the way that we play in order to make sure that Ricardo Pepi can be as successful as possible. That's how much Peter Bosz believes in Ricardo Pepi in this team at PSV. They believes that they can win yet another Eredivisie, believes that they can advance out of the Champions League yet again, with Ricardo Pepi leading the line as the number 9. Now, it felt like in January, Ricardo Pepi was certain to leave this summer, but being given the number 9 shirt, there is no doubt that Ricardo Pepi will be staying there. Now, I brought up a little bit of the build-up structure under Peter Bosz at PSV. And what you're going to see here is they like to play with a focal point number 9. But the thing about the way that Bosz used to play is this number 9 was oftentimes asked to drop deep, right? As you can see, they kind of have this flat back 4 where the 6 almost drops between the 2 center backs. They create kind of a double 8, and it allows for almost this diamond formation here, right? You see this triangle here? It allows for this number 9 now. Once this ball comes into the 6 or comes out wide to the 8 or 10, this 9 drops in to help link up play. That, over and over again, is how Luc de Jong was a player. Then in the high buildup, you have basically something very similar, right? This number 9, here's Ricardo Pepi or Luc de Jong, whoever it might be, is in this top of this 5 in the formation. I think this is probably a better picture for it. As this ball comes into as this ball comes into these 8 and 10, the 7 and 11 kind of push higher, and the 9 drops in yet again to playing with their feet closer to the midfield. The number 9 was not asked to be as much of a focal point in the box as much as they were in terms of getting the ball in and then forcing it back out wide for the number 9 to make their runs. Linking with the striker. Here you can see De Jong. See, he's not even the furthest person forward. This ball comes in here as it allows this 8 and 10 sometimes to push out wide. Sometimes this is a winger that pushes out wide. It's a different way of unlocking the defense because this focal point, these center backs then either one of them picks up here, the ball comes in over behind, or the center backs drop deep and allows this player to kind of turn and run with the ball. The issue with that for me is, as you'll see here, this is Luc de Jong's heat map. He's all over the place. He is very much in the box, but look at how many points of possession he has in and around the halfway line, in the half spaces on the left and right-hand side, kind of being the focal point of that diamond, as I mentioned, and leaving this width for the wingers. Now, if you look at Ricardo Pepi's heat map for last year, he likes to play a little bit deeper, right? There's not nearly as much touching of the ball in these areas. Obviously, there's not as much red and orange because he didn't play as many minutes. He got injured. But as you can see, a player who is much more comfortable getting in on the ball in and around the box. The shining light to me, though, is if you look at Ricardo Pepi's heat map from 23-24. So this is the year before last year. This is 2 years ago. he even more was scared to be involved in these first 2/3 of buildup. So he, as a player, is advancing to being more interested in getting on the ball in earlier parts of buildup, which is going to be crucial as well to the way he would play for the U.S. men's national team. I expect Ricardo Pepi to have an absolutely massive season now for PSV with the way that Peter Bosz is talking about him. He's going to be the focal point of this team. He is going to score 30-plus goals, and he is going to impress everyone. He scored 2 in the first preseason match already this year for PSV, looking very strong for them. Well, we've already covered one disgruntled Juventus player in Weston McKennie. Now there's Tim Weah, who had to move to Nottingham Forest, and that fell apart. Had to move to Marseille. Now they're arguing over a few million pounds here and there. Listen, it looks like the Marseille deal is going to get done. It seems like Tim Weah wants this deal to get done. His agent is spewing a lot of nonsense, but I'm going to assume this deal to Marseille gets done because I like the way Tim Weah fits into De Zerbi's setup here. It allows him to be high and wide, attacking the goal with the ball at his feet, the way that Tim Weah wants to play. De Zerbi's setup in midfield and his defense is extremely fascinating. I'm not going to bore you with the details because, frankly, that's not what Tim Weah is going to be asked to do. But what I will tell you is it creates loads of mini transitions. We spent a whole summer talking about mini transitions, so that's why I'm telling you this. But if you just look at a couple of these images, right? Tim Weah is going to most likely play left wing. They've just brought in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang back to Marseille. He's going to be the striker. Mason Greenwood, don't want to talk about him too much. He's going to be the right winger. You can see where this left winger is, high and wide. That is where Tim Weah is at his best. He can be an outlet receiving the ball here from deep. He can be a player who runs in behind. That is how Tim Weah wants to play. Now, the beauty of this is when these mini transitions are completed, as you can see, here's an example of one, right? This ball is coming into this midfielder from the goalkeeper. It's coming back out here who spins this midfield, and now you've got 4 running against 3. You've got these 2 players running in on the strong side. You've got what would be Weah running in on the weak side, and you've got defenders trying to catch them at the very same time. Perfect. Tim Weah, left wing, getting the ball in behind with his speed. As you, I'm sure, saw that U.S. men's national team video, every player saying Weah's the fastest player on the team. Then, as I mentioned, there's also the ability for Marseille to be more direct under De Zerbi. As I mentioned, Tim Weah, super good at receiving, super good at ball retention. Ball comes in from the goalkeeper. You've created a 2v2 with Aubameyang and Tim Weah. That's a pretty pacey 2v2 because your midfield has sucked all of their defenders in to try and stop this mini transition that was created up here. Now you've got Weah going up against a right back. 1v1. That ball comes in over the top, 1v1. It's not going to happen and work every time, but the variability of how they're going to build up is going to allow this left winger to get in isolation so many times. And Tim Weah in isolation with the ball either in front of him or with him running with the ball is a proposition I really like. And maybe more than anything, I like this scenario where this ball is coming in over the top. You've got a defender trying to chase in behind on Greenwood. You've got this defender trying to chase in behind on Aubameyang, and you've got a Tim Weah waiting at the back post. Sounds like a lot of goals to me. Then in higher buildup, it's not as transitional, obviously, but again, as you can see, because of the way that they are willing to split so wide in their center backs and allowing this pivot to kind of, you're almost creating a 1-4-2-3, right? I mean, they call this a 1-3-2-2-3, but I'm going to, because they're calling this, the goalie is one of them. But to me, it's almost like a 1-4-2-3. You're going to drag 5 defenders in, right? Which is going to leave you with 4v3 back here. And again, an opportunity for a pacey player to get in behind on a fullback who's getting sucked further and further into the defense. It's a spectacular opportunity here for Tim Weah. And once in a while, yes, they like to create numerical superiorities in midfield. We talked about that. Once in a while, you're going to see Weah asked to be dropping into this half space, but it's not really the kind of player Weah is, and it's not really the main option for De Zerbi in possession. Super, super interesting move here for Tim Weah. And I actually like the ability for him to become a more realistically left winger because, again, should Anthony Robinson go down, or even if he doesn't go down, he has the ability to actually settle in and play as a true left back. He's good going forward, but he has become a better defender. He's become someone who's an option as a true native left back, and that could allow Tim Weah at left wing, Pulisic as your left-hand-sided 10, Tillman as your right-hand-sided 10, and then the likes of Dest or Freeman as your overlapping right-hand-sided right back, right? So just to take a quick look at what that would look like in the tactical setup, because I do have that set up, right? Like, you could actually see Weah out here, Dest pulling up here, and I would probably not play Ream in this situation because you're limiting him, but this is a very attractive setup as well. You get Dest a little bit higher and wide, Adams McKennie pivot. You have players who are comfortable in this position, in and out of possession. Yeah, Anthony's going to pop up here once in a while, and this is probably more likely Cardoso in this setup, actually, because then you can have Cardoso kind of drop back in a little bit next to McKenzie and Richards, whatever it might be. But I like this a lot if Weah becomes a true winger, because it allows us to have some real attacking width, which we really have not had in a very long time, ever since Pulisic has really become more of a 10 overall. Just a couple more players now. I know this is a long one. Just getting into it, just some transfers, some fun stuff. Josh Sargent nixed a 21 million euro move to the Bundesliga to go to Wolfsburg. I can't say I'm shocked. He goes to Wolfsburg. He's not going to do well. His chances of the World Cup squad are cooked. He has been rumored to go to Leeds, Burnley, Brentford. He's looking for that Premier League move. But again, it's a risky one to me for him. Like, his best chance at making the World Cup squad is staying at Norwich, scoring another 25 goals in the championship, and forcing his way in as the third striker. I don't think that's what's likely to happen from the U.S. side. I don't think Josh Sargent's really in consideration without any major injuries. But that's probably his best and only chance at making the World Cup squad at this point, if you ask me. I know a lot of people in the comments think I don't care about Josh Sargent. Watch any of my other content. I've explained why Josh Sargent does not work in this system. But he simply is not the player to lead the line. There are so many better options. Right now, for me, it's Pepi, Balogun, Damian Downs, in that order for the U.S. men's national team at striker. Diego Luna. During the Gold Cup, there was rumors of Celta Vigo, Leeds being interested. It does seem like Diego Luna is opting himself to stay in the MLS. To me, it's a safe play. If he continues to play how he's playing in the MLS, he's going to make the World Cup squad. There's no doubt about that. He goes to Celta Vigo or Leeds, kind of loses on game time, doesn't impress, sits on the bench every week. Could hurt his chances of making the World Cup squad. I don't mind this for Luna. My guess is he'll stay at least till January, and then maybe should he, get called up in September and October and play well, he'll take that risk of making the move. But right now, with the stocks where they are, I think people are not looking to take any major risks at ruining their chances at making this World Cup squad. Then we've got Yunus Musa. So Yunus Musa was supposed to go to Napoli. I'm not going to talk too much about Napoli because it does seem like there's a lot of interest from a lot of other clubs, right? Like, there's been Nottingham Forest, Wolves, West Ham, all in the Premier League interested in Yunus Musa after the Napoli deal broke down. But now Napoli are back interested. I think the issue has been the price point. AC Milan are asking for 30 million euros. I think clubs are looking to pay 20 to 25 million euros, which I think is a fair valuation of Yunus Musa. He hasn't been spectacular. I do like a lot about what Yunus Musa could offer, though, for Antonio Conte in Napoli. I think this would be a really good fit for him. The buildup is super, super deep for them, right? They're going to almost basically run 5 flat in the back with a double pivot who need to be strong ball carriers and strong press breakers. Yunus Musa is definitely a strong ball carrier, although he does lose the ball a lot, but he loses the ball, and then there's 5 defenders behind him. Versus at AC Milan, when he was losing the ball, there's 2 or 3 defenders behind him, and he's paying for that mistake over and over again. So if you were to pair Yunus Musa with either Billy Gilmore, even Scott McTominay could drop deeper. I wouldn't be surprised if De Bruyne is asked to play a little bit deeper in this setup as well, just because it makes him a little less vulnerable. But if you see this setup, right, it's kind of a 4-2-4 flat. Imagine Yunus Musa as one of these 2 players here in the breaking of the press. It could be Zambo and Gisa as well, with Lukaku and McTominay a little bit higher. I think McTominay is going to drop a little deeper. I think De Bruyne is more likely to play as this almost second striker. Like, everyone likes to talk about De Bruyne as an attacking midfielder, but he is truly a second striker in almost every single way. Then in higher buildup, right? Like, you're still talking about a double pivot here where Musa is going to be asked to play between this kind of narrow attacking midfielders, these 2 strikers, and the defensive line. It allows for him to receive and carry over and over again and try and be the one who kind of makes things happen. I don't know if you recall the episode from last year, but Musa had a really nice assist where he received in this area and was able to turn and play a ball into the channels. That's kind of Musa's best passing ability. He's not going to play diagonals. He's not going to play line-breaking passes on the ground. But what he can do is play the ball into the channels and carry the ball, where I think he could be super successful in this double pivot as a little bit more of a controller. He would have to learn how to control a little bit better and be a little less erratic. But if Conte likes him in that position, I like him in that position, and I think he could really succeed in that position for Napoli. And lastly, there's a lot of fluidity in the way that Conte likes to play, where, as you can see here, you can have a player drop in here, which I don't think you'd see Musa do. You could have a player get a little bit more advanced. You could see someone in this pivot actually go a little bit wider and see the right back drop in closer to the pivot. So to me, that's a really interesting opportunity for Yunus Musa, and I like the fit at Napoli a lot. Last couple ones to cover, some smaller transfers or big transfers, depending on how you look at them. Cole Campbell. Another one where are Dortmund going to really get in the way over a couple of £1 million? A lot of potential in his move to Stuttgart for 7 million euros. He makes this move to Stuttgart and has a good season. Cole Campbell, sneaky, could be in the conversation. Sneaky. He would have to really impress at Stuttgart, but this would be a huge move for Cole Campbell, and I like it a lot. I do like Dortmund for developing young players, but they're a factory in a lot of ways. And if you're not hitting the ground running immediately, the way Gio Reyna kind of stopped doing, you kind of get left behind. And I like the opportunity to be platformed at Stuttgart. Matt Turner. This is a disaster what's going on with Matt Turner. Lyon situation is messy because they got relegated. They're not relegated. They're back in, but they don't have any transfer budget. They want to cancel this transfer because they need the money back so they can spend it on other positions. Now, there's not a lot of clubs who are interested. He might go on loan back to New England. Matt Turner is having a huge downfall. 2 years ago, there was no chance Matt Turner was not going to be the goalkeeper at the World Cup. And right now, his position is getting more and more in jeopardy by the day. We'll keep you updated on that, but really worried for Matt Turner. Max Arsene, another player who I believe will stay in the MLS, but interesting to see Toulouse interested in a move for him. They offered 2 million euros to Columbus. Columbus turned that away, saying they want significantly more. But Toulouse do play with a kind of three-back with wing-backs. Would be great for Max Arsene. It would be interesting to see him and Mark McKenzie playing together, maybe forming a little partnership on that left-hand side, although McKenzie did play a lot of right center back as well last year in that three at the back. Alex Freeman, another one where some noise was made during his impressive run at the Gold Cup. Apparently Parma, who we've already spoken about, Carlos Cuesta, bid 2 million euros for him from Orlando City. They again said, we're going to need a lot more than that. There's been some Villarreal interest in Alex Freeman and some unnamed Premier League clubs, so we'll check back in on that in our next transfer episode as well. Two more. I know it's a long episode. Caleb Wiley, back to Watford on a season-long loan. I like that. I like consistency. I like the level where he's going. I like the ability to play in a league that really likes width from its fullbacks, which Caleb Wiley most certainly will provide. Lastly, Brian Reynolds, kind of a forgotten name, but a sneaky name when you just never know with our defense what positions we'll need, but he has really become more of a right wing back type. So I don't know. Maybe. But Hoffenheim interested. They have bid 3.5 million euros. They've actually offered a loan. Westerlo is saying 3.5 million euros. We're not looking for a loan. But Hoffenheim did just sell their right wing back to Sparta Prague. So they're looking for a replacement. Be an interesting move for Brian Reynolds. Kind of a nice next step. I think he took a way too big of a step going to Roma at a young age. But right now, for him to be able to make this move to Hoffenheim, get back into the Bundesliga, a good league for fullbacks. We've seen Joe Scally be successful there. Fabian Johnson back in the day, for those who remember. So, interesting one for Brian Reynolds. Long episode. I hope you liked the tactical elements that I brought to the transfer episode. I know there's some rambling in there, trying to explain how an entire team plays, how it would affect a certain player, and how it would affect the U.S. men's national team without going on for an hour. I think we're at 40 minutes right now. So, if you enjoyed it, let me know. I'm going to do more of these as some of these transfers kind of firm up. I'll kind of single out, if any of these moves come to fruition and they're really big moves, if Reyna really happens, we'll do an episode just on Reyna. Or if Balogun really happens, we'll do an episode just on Balogun, Weah, so on and so forth. So make sure to subscribe. Loving all the new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining us here on Yanks Abroad. The build-up to the World Cup continues. So make sure you got those notifications on because we got videos every single week breaking down the U.S. men's national team, who's hot, who's not, who's making the World Cup squad. And we'll talk to you next week on Yanks Abroad.